Hey, welcome to this explainer from the Small Town Source. We're the teaching media of Sycamus Community Church, and we're so glad you're here. Have you ever looked at the news lately and just felt this, this sense of unease, like things are speeding up? Well, today, we're going to dig into what it means to live faithfully in a world that feels like it's living in the soon.
Okay, let's just dive right in. You open up your phone, you scroll through your news feed, and man, it feels like the headlines could be ripped right out of the Bible, doesn't it? We see wars, instability, chaos all over the globe, and it's so easy to get anxious. So the real question for us, for you and me, is how are we supposed to live in a world that feels like it is constantly on the edge?
And that feeling right there brings us to our first idea. Because let's be honest, when we see what looks like prophecy playing out on the nightly news, our first human reaction is often, well, it's panic. But is that really the response God had in mind for us?
So it seems like we've got two roads we can go down, and they lead to totally different places. The first road is the panic response. That's the one that drags you into fear, into endless speculation, trying to set dates on a calendar. But the other road, the one the Bible points us to, is completely different. It calls for vigilance and faithfulness. Really, it's a choice between being alarmed by what's happening in the world and being alert for what God is doing. Let's break down what that actually looks like. Okay, this is the pivot point for our entire conversation. This is the question that can shift our whole perspective, from being frantic interpreters of headlines to actually understanding our own personal assignment in these times. What is our job description right here, right now?
And the very first thing on that job description is this. We need to cultivate alertness, not alarm. Jesus gives us a really clear framework for this, especially in the book of Matthew. He shows us exactly how to be watchful without being eaten alive by worry.
Look at this. Jesus himself says it point blank. Don't panic. He knew we'd see this stuff. And the metaphor he uses is just brilliant. Birth pains. Now think about that for a second. Birth pains means something amazing is on its way. But they aren't the baby itself. They're the beginning of the process, not the final moment. That one idea changes everything.
So getting this distinction is absolutely key. Alarm, that's a state of fear. It paralyzes you, it distracts you from what you're supposed to be doing, but alertness, that's totally different. It's a state of active readiness. It's being awake, paying attention, and focused on your job, knowing the boss is coming home.
And Jesus' story here just nails the point. In his parable, who gets the reward? It's the servant who is found simply doing his job. He wasn't out there staring at the sky. He wasn't making charts about the future. No, he was faithfully taking care of the master's house. His readiness was proven by his faithfulness.
And this leads us perfectly into our next thought, because this kind of faithfulness, it's not usually found in some big, dramatic, heroic act. Nope. Most of the time, it's found in what you could call the mission in the mundane.
Now, this might be one of the most surprising parts of what it means to be ready. The Bible tells us to live quiet lives, to do our work faithfully, to be considerate people, to mind our own business. It's a delightfully mundane calling. Our spiritual alertness, our readiness, is proven in the ordinary, everyday stuff of life.
Now, alongside this quiet personal faithfulness, Jesus gives one huge global task that has to be finished before the end. He says the good news, the gospel, has to be preached to all nations. This is the big, overarching mission that we are all a part of.
But here's a super important detail that we just can't miss. The Greek word that Jesus used for nations here is ethne. It's where we get our word ethnic. This isn't really talking about countries with political borders on a map. It's talking about every single people group, every distinct culture, every language on earth. And when you think about it that way, the mission gets a whole lot bigger and a whole lot more personal.
So when you start to grasp this mission, both the small, mundane part and the huge global part, it leads you right to the kind of person you need to become to do it. See, it's not just about what we do, it's about who we are. It's about living a holy life.
Okay, now hang on, because this is a pretty wild idea from the Apostle Peter. He says that the way we live, our holy and godly lives, is somehow connected to hurrying along the day of God. What on earth does that mean? How could our lives possibly affect God's cosmic timeline?
Well, Peter breaks it down into two practical things. First, he talks about a holy life. That just means a life that's set apart for God's purposes. And second, godly conduct, where our day-to-day actions, our choices, start to actually look a little bit like God's character. It's not about being perfect, not at all. It's about the direction you're heading.
So let's be super clear here. This is not about us trying to force God's hand or control his timeline. We can't do that. But in this really beautiful and mysterious way, our readiness is actually part of the plan. By choosing to live lives of holiness and godliness right now, we are living in alignment with the very future we're waiting for. We get to participate with God in what he's doing.
And that brings us to our final picture, a powerful metaphor that Jesus himself used to describe what this ultimate state of readiness looks like. He compares it to being properly dressed for a wedding.
So Jesus tells this story in Matthew 22. A king throws a wedding for his son, and the invitation goes out to everyone, good and bad alike. The hall is packed. But then the king comes in, walks up to one of the guests, and asks this devastatingly simple question. Friend, how did you get in here without wedding clothes?
And the guy without the right clothes, he gets thrown out. And the point is crucial. It didn't matter that he accepted the invitation. It didn't matter what his background was. The only thing that mattered in that moment was whether he was properly prepared for the event itself. It was all about his readiness.
And you see this exact same idea pop up again at the very end of the Bible. In Revelation, it says the people who get to enter the holy city are the ones who have washed their robes. So, what are these wedding clothes? What does it even mean to wash our robes?
And this, right here, is the heart of the entire message. Our wedding clothes aren't something we can make ourselves through being a good person or trying really hard. They are the perfect righteousness of Jesus Christ, and they are given to us as a completely free gift when we admit we need them, when we come to him for forgiveness. The cross was enough.
So we end up right back where we started. We are living in the soon. The Master is coming back. And when he shows up, the only question that's going to matter is this. How will he find you? Will he find you panicked and distracted? Or will he find you alert, faithfully doing your job, and dressed and ready for the party? Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer from the Small Town Source. We really hope it's given you some encouragement and a fresh sense of purpose.